And last Sunday specifically, last Sunday afternoon, we lost one of the giants in all the sports, and probably
Mm-hmm.
in civil rights history as well from a sports standpoint. And we lost Bill Russell. Um, I have a special guest. I'm gonna pipe them in real quick, so hopefully you can hear the video and sit tight, and then we'll talk about it. All right, Cortez, you got it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Cortez, Paul the Ball Not Court podcast. CL Bryce and the Hardwood Nation has called me to get my thoughts on the passing of Bill Russell. I mean, it's easy to go off on Bill Russell and his basketball accolades and 11-time NBA champion, 5-time MVP. I'm sure CL and Bryce and the Hardwood Nation will cover this very well. But let's talk about the man out off the court that he was and what he meant to the civil rights movement at a time where racism was at an all-time high, and people were pretty much didn't want to understand your walks or backgrounds or beliefs. Um, Bill was one of those guys that was a pioneer to get this moving on the right way and realize that every man and woman is equal regardless of the color of their skin. And seeing him mentor, NBA players and NBA family over the past years, and I'm sure he's seen this sport went to impeccable heights, and he always was friendly with everybody. You see him at all the All-Star games when he was able to. Um, he joked around with, about everybody. He just make you smile, and he was just a bevy of knowledge and a bright man that you seen that everybody can go to. Bill Russell has definitely got to be debated as one of the greatest players that ever played the game, and at least from a center position, one of the best defensive centers to play the game. Um, great rebounder, ambassador for the game, and um, eventually you just know that we're all are facing our mortality, and um, you just happy to see him be an ambassador to the game for as long as he has been, and you just want to keep all his close friends and family in prayer while they go through this tough time. But we do need to recognize that he is a legend in this game. He is the top 75 players. He was recognized on the 75th anniversary NBA team. So there's so much you can talk about Bill Russell on and off the court. And I keep it short because I know CL and Bryce will go over his legacy more in detail. But he's just a wonderful man that you hear from afar. Never met him, but the stories and the way you see him carry himself, he was just a fantastic man. And you just thank for his imprint that he put on the basketball game and all these individuals. Obviously, you see all the outpouring love and support for his friends and family dealing with this passing and honoring the great Bill Russell.
All right, Kevin. What did you think of Cortez's work?
Man, if I knew you were going to have him on video, I wanted to come on. That boy been avoiding me for God knows how long. No, I'm just kidding. As always, Cortez, eloquent in his words. He knew, he said a lot about Bill Russell. Of course, him being the basketball historian that he is, and apparently, anytime we have to do a podcast from now on with him, we have to do British accents because that seems like the only people he will do a podcast with lately. I don't know what's wrong with me now. I don't know if I just got thrown away or anything like that, but no, he did a good job there. To me, Bill Russell was the if you want to say it, the Martin Luther King Jr. of the NBA, because what he did outside of the court, as much as he did on the court, what he did outside of the court, not only for the game of basketball, but for civil rights and for all the stuff that he represented, his legacy is more of that than it is basketball to me. because he done more. He done more with less, per se, especially back then, especially where he played. We have to
Right.
think that he played in Boston. Boston to this day is still said to be one of the most racist places
Yes.
to play basketball. And how he did it and how he carried himself in that day and age and how he still represented it all the way up until the day he died and used his position to talk about things that back then people really wasn't talking about and kept carrying on, carrying on, carrying on, and carrying on. That's a big gigantic part of his legacy along with all the stuff that he did on the court. Of course, my thoughts and prayers are with his family and stuff as I knew that I think the funeral was already happened. But
I'm not sure. I was looking to hear about when it would be, but I'm not sure if it has
I
or
know
not
I
yet.
haven't. It's been a week, and you still haven't
Yeah.
heard anything about it. But I'm sure that the NBA community will show out in fold to this, to go to his memorial, or do whatever they're going to be doing for him. But yeah, he was a tremendous ambassador for the game of basketball. He was a tremendous ambassador for civil rights, and he was one of the greatest basketball players ever to play the game. And that's how I will remember Bill Russell.
I would people would always ask me who's the greatest player, of course, and I would always tell them Bill Russell. And they'd be like, why not Michael? I'm like, it's no disrespect to Michael. To me, Bill Russell is the greatest winner of all the sports. So 11 total championships, a stretch of 8 in a row, his last 2 as a player and a coach. That's something we'll never see. We'll never see that again. Okay.
No.
So I would always address him as the greatest living NBA player. Um, I remember the first time I saw him like on television. First time I saw Bill Russell was in '96 when they celebrated the 50th anniversary of the league, and I just remember watching him and Wilt Chamberlain just cut up. They did a special on those two guys about their rivalry and how they would talk about playing against each other. And I fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this is great that those two were such fierce competitors, but actually good friends off the court. And then we lost Wilt actually a few months after that, a
Yep.
year or two. But that was my first time just seeing the man that Bill Russell was on the court. And then in the years after that, learning about how he was off the court and how instrumental he was for civil rights in the 60s. I will say, I do remember hearing that I heard his house was vandalized, and I also heard his house was burnt down. And he lost a lot of his memorabilia while he was in Boston. And he was like, screw this, I'm out. Left. And, within the last 10 to 15 years, he returned back to Boston. They put the statue up and kind of worked on that relationship with the city because for a long time he was like, no, I'm out of here because those fans really didn't appreciate what they had. And that's horrific when you think about it.
They never do though. if you look back, Boston fans really never appreciated anything they do. But Boston fans cared more about whatever the Red Sox did than anything, far more than what the Celtics did ever. And basketball was always underappreciated there. Sure, they won, but the only real time that team got any sense of anything was when, and I'm going to say it, was when a white guy was the face of their team. That's the only time that these guys really gave a crap about Boston basketball, is when a white guy was the face of their team. And for Bill, for the stuff that happened to Bill after he represented that city so well and everything like that, it's just they needed to do something to try to rebuild that relationship, because that's just the way that Boston was. Even to this day, people still say stuff about it. Who came out and said it the other day? That they said something. Where's your least favorite place to play? Boston, because they're racist as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Your boy.
Yeah. Oh, I remember it was him. I just, me, I just don't.
You won't say his name?
No. He is ye shall not be named. Yeah.
I used to be that way with another former Heat player. Eddie Jones. I was always so disappointed in Eddie Jones for years. I would never say his name for years. Never do it.
I'm just,
Uh,
I'm disappointed in him because the stance he can take on so many things, he doesn't do it.
right.
Now all of a sudden he's taking the stances on stuff, but it's like, dude, you're doing it. One, you're doing it ass backwards, and two, you're not going about it the right way, man. Take the stance. If you're going to take the stance and stay on that stance. Don't continuously jump around just because of other things that you've got going on that you want to stay going on that people are still going to do. If you're going to take the stance, man, take it
Right.
and be done with it. Don't flop around it.
It's almost like, and if you compare the two players, and we're talking about Bill Russell and LeBron James, for those who don't know, it's almost like, even though they didn't have social media back in the day, Bill Russell didn't do it for show. He didn't do it for publicity. He did it because he genuinely cared about his people and saw things all around him that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It almost comes off with LeBron James is that he does it for publicity. He's the highest profile athlete in the world, and he just has to say something. And sometimes he says things at the wrong time. Sometimes when he hasn't done the actual work or research, he'll just pop out something, and it'll be foolish as shit, and then he'll retract the statement. It's like a show and tell type deal. Bill Russell didn't have to do that. Everything he did, everything he said mattered. And LeBron James could have been that way, but now he's too far gone. It doesn't even matter anymore.
He's gone because people look at him completely different now. People look at him like people looked at Bill, and Bill was do. Bill was show and go, not show and stow. Bill went and did what he needed to do. Bill would be out there with the people on the lines.
Right.
Like he would be at these protests. He would do things like that. And we seen it during all this stuff. A lot of pro athletes were out there with just people, with just me and you.
Right.
They were out there with us, going and showing that they're against what was going on, that they didn't like what was going on, that they were with the people. And you had some guys who stayed in their houses and threw stones from their house, but didn't want to get the stones thrown back at them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
They didn't want to get out there. They wanted to say something, but they didn't want to get out there and say something because they were worried about something would come bouncing back off of them, and that they would do something the wrong way instead of just doing it and showing people that you actually care.
That's a huge difference between those two athletes. And if I could be half the man that Bill Russell was, I would be happy with that, because I know we're going to still find out stuff that he did behind the scenes that wasn't publicized. And I just can't wait, because, like I said, he was a mountain of a man. And the NBA is going to miss him. Oh, go ahead.
I can't wait till somebody really tells his story.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can't wait. I know they have books and I know they have, but I can't wait until someone really tells the story of Bill Russell. Like we get the Last Dance, but in Bill Russell form, to where it's all these shows about everything that Bill Russell done, from inside the arena and the court to all the stuff that he did outside. Because for every good thing that he did inside the court, he did something good outside the court as well. And you've heard stories about things he just did for people, that he went out of his way to go and do stuff for people, white, black, indifferent. Right. He did things. He was a humanitarian, and he was a good person, as well as one of the best basketball players to ever play, especially at his size and what he could do on the court. He was He was just what we like to call a good human being.
That is so eloquently said. Um, wow, that was great.
Look,
I
look,
watched.
look, for every time that I'm funny, I can be that way too. So y'all just don't typecast me.
Look, I watch Chris Bouchard's and Rob Parker's podcast. I can't think of the name of it right now, but one of those guys said, as great as Bill Russell was, which again, greatest player ever, how much better could he have been if he could have just played basketball and not had to worry about all the racism and all the other stuff that was going on? It was
That
like, how?
that's the thing, man. That's the thing. People don't realize that the total. Think of okay. Here's a perfect example. Think about Jackie Robinson.
Hmm,
Jackie Robinson, for how great that man was, had all of that weight put on his shoulders.
right.
If Jackie Robinson didn't have all that weight on his shoulders, he would have been 1,000 times better. These guys were not only weighted down with the pressures of being good on the field or on the court, but these guys were also put with the pressure of being the first black guy to play basketball, being a black man to lead the team in Boston, being and having all of this stuff go on during this time in this country when black people really were hated. Like anywhere you went, there wasn't really a lot of places that black people could go back then that would accept them with open arms, except into their own community. If they went outside of that community, they wasn't accepted. So you got to think all these black athletes that played back then, even when they go to college or whenever they went to, if you were the first black guy to do anything in a sport anywhere, you had so much pressure put upon you and thrust upon your shoulders that if you didn't have that pressure, you would have been 10 times better than you were. And these guys had a community on their back per se, that they were the ones that were representing the black community. They were the ones that whatever they said, whatever they did and everything like that represented a whole group of people. And I couldn't imagine the pressure that these guys were under with all of that on their backs. And I give kudos to every single one, not just Jackie and Bill, but every single guy that was the first black guy to go and do something wherever they went and done it at, because they had the whole pressure of the whole entire community on their backs. And because of people like that, we have moved along slowly but surely. We have moved along in this country to now where you see that black people are getting the type of recognition and the type of positions now that they deserve, because they're people just like everybody else.
Right.
Everybody in this country deserves the same opportunity to get anything that we want to get, because that's what America should be. America shouldn't be because you're black, you don't get this, or because you're Filipino, you don't get this, or because you're from another country, you don't get this. People come to America to live the American dream. Black, white, green, yellow, purple, any color should be able to come here and not have to worry about what people are going to say just because they're a different color, a different race, a different creed, a woman, a man, woman, woman, man, whatever. We should be living in this place to where we don't have to worry about these kind of things. But the fact is, we still have to worry about these types of things. And we had the guys like Bill Russell and Jackie and all of these other people to try to move forward. And we've moved forward, but we haven't moved forward enough. And we need more people to come out in a positive light, like they were doing, and stop with all the negativity of trying to fight negative with negative. We need to fight the negative with the positive. Just
Right.
like all these people in these comment sections on YouTube and stuff. Why are you being so negative? Like, this is why we are at the place that we're at. Because people are so negative. There's a couple of things you should be a negative about. If you don't like the other person's sports team, be negative as hell about it, because that's what sports is about. If you don't like a movie, be negative about it. You can be negative all you want to, but don't bash somebody because they like something else. We have these outlets that we can use just to have fun with each other and to get on to each other. But we don't need it in everyday life just because somebody is a different color than you are.
Mhm.
Come on, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Would you have? I'd rather us have fun because somebody's a Magic fan and I'm a Heat fan and they sucked for a decade and I can make fun of them. So people make fun of me all the time. I'm a Jaguar fan, for God's sake. So like just enjoy each other. If we enjoyed each other more, this place would be such a better place.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we just don't enjoy each other anymore because people are going to be. The bad part is we had so many generations just move their anger down
That's
to
it.
generation to generation to generation to generation that nobody has put that stopgap in between there to where you're like, you know what? Stop this shit.
Right. Right.
You just stop this shit. Like in
Right.
my family, you had generation to generation. They went hunting, they went fishing, they did all that stuff, and you could tell that it was. Then you came to me. I played basketball. I played football. I had more black friends than you could count. And people in my family were like, well, you play this? Well, ain't that a black person sport? And I'm like, yeah, I'm really good at it. So now it's a white person sport too. I'm like, y'all just need to learn to appreciate things. Like, don't get mad because I'm playing this and I have a lot of black friends. Why are you getting mad about it? It's not your life. It's my life. Let me live the way I live and stop trying to rub yourself off on me. And when we can get to that generation that puts that stopgap in there, the world will be a better place.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.